What a day! Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, and your number one source for everything. It ends with us saga. As I told you earlier, today, Blake Lively, who is battling rumors that she is a perpetual farter in public. The flatulent stanky blank. As I told you earlier, today, Ryan Reynolds' wife went to court with a motion to sanction Justin Baldoni's co-defendants and their lawyer, Brian Friedman. Watch my video on that to get caught up. Blake Smollett has argued that his co-defendants have made baseless claims. That goes against Rule 11. They are clogging up the docket, a delay tactic. They are purposely trying to get them to spend more money. So Team Baldoni should be sanctioned and start paying some legal bills for them now. Well, that's not the only thing. Talking about clogging up the docket, Z-list Blake Lively is totally polluting it today. Her lawyers just dropped a motion to compel with the judge. Yet another thing for him to have to read and decide on. This is in regards to the workplace investigation that Wayfarer Studios conducted, and they claim that Wayfarer is not responding to the subpoena. Let's go through this together. Dear Judge Lyman, Blake Lively respectfully submits this letter motion to compel Wayfarer Studios, LLC, Wayfarer Studios, and It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, and Together Wayfarer to produce materials responsive to Miss Lively's fourth set of requests for production, which seeks documents and witness recordings concerning Wayfarer's purported neutral workplace investigation into Miss Lively's sexual harassment and retaliation claims. The investigation. Wayfarer is withholding such documents and recordings, claiming, at least for now, attorney-client privilege and work product. This so-called investigation is a disingenuous charade. Wayfarer failed, although it was legally required to investigate Miss Lively's concerns when she first raised them in May 2023. Had it done so, Miss Lively would have participated in such an investigation, and it would have substantiated the sexual harassment she suffered while on the set of It Ends With Us, the film, which included, among other things, Mr. Baldoni's unsolicited discussions about his addiction to pornography and sex life, and his improvised intimate scenes without Miss Lively's consent. I'm not even going to respond. It's exhausting, but let's just continue with the letter, okay? If her complaints were promptly investigated as the law requires, she may also have been spared the retaliatory smear campaign by Wayfarer and its defendants. Instead, Wayfarer waited years until late January 2025 to initiate this investigation. By that time, Wayfarer had already forcefully publicly denied Miss Lively's allegations and sued her and several others for $400 million for making the very same allegations that are now the subject of this neutral investigation for a workplace that no longer exists, the film set. What's more, by January, its counsel had repeatedly called Miss Lively a liar in widely circulated media interviews. I mean, if the shoe fits. Delulu's letter continues, under the guise of the investigation's neutrality. They added the quotes, Wayfarer is conducting one-sided interviews of unsuspecting third parties. Anybody that's being interviewed is not unsuspecting, okay? They were either dreading or looking forward to this. But they claim of the interviews potentially tainting the ongoing litigation while reserving for itself the option of whether it will release its findings or bury them behind a cloak of attorney-client privilege. Meanwhile, the investigation has dragged on for nearly 5 months, conveniently providing a pretextual basis for Wayfarer to refuse to produce otherwise patently discoverable information. Pause. What if the investigation's not done? What if it's not done? You don't want to submit incomplete things, right? We're in no hurry, boo. The trial does not start until March of 2026. Jesus, this letter. It continues. Particularly given Wayfarer's publicly stated foregone conclusion that Miss Lively's allegations are not true, Wayfarer is not permitted to wield the attorney-client privilege as a sword and shield, invoking the privilege for now, but insisting that it may waive it later at some unknown future date, presumably if and only if the investigation yields a result Wayfarer likes, which it will no doubt publicly release with much fanfare. The motive is clear. Wayfarer hopes to conduct shadow fact discovery under the pretext of an attorney investigation to prevent Miss Lively from obtaining critical information until it's too late. Wayfarer's refusal to confirm its position on the attorney-client privilege is improper. Moreover, regardless of whether Wayfarer intends to rely on the investigation at trial, its choice to initiate the investigation in the middle of contentious litigation years after the events at issue first arose means that it must disclose the underlying materials during discovery. Since late January, the investigators, Rains, Feldman, Littrell, LLP, and Adam Investigations Counsel have contacted potential witnesses and, in doing so, represented that they are conducting a neutral fact-finding investigation. Upon discovering this, Miss Lively immediately raised concerns directly to the investigators and to Wayfarer about the investigation proceeding in parallel with discovery in this action, its purported neutrality given Wayfarer's publicly stated position, and the risk of confusing or tainting witnesses, among other issues. In March, given these circumstances, Miss Lively requested that to ensure transparency, the investigators make several disclosures to witnesses, including disclosing at the outset that they were retained by Wayfarer, which alone would control the investigation materials. Both Wayfarer and its investigators have refused to share any details about the investigation. On March 31st, Miss Lively served the request, seeking all documents and communications, etc., etc. On April 30th, Wayfarer responded with boilerplate objections invoking attorney-client privilege and work product protection. While initially claiming they would produce relevant, non-privileged documents within their possession, custody, or control during the parties' conferral, Wayfarer's counsel represented that they did not have the investigation materials. As I said, it's probably not done. But they are arguing to the judge, Wayfarer is not permitted to assert blanket objections and categorically withhold documents on attorney-client privilege or work product grounds, without identifying the specific materials being withheld and establishing a factual basis. Wayfarer has not come close to meeting its burden to show that the attorney-client privilege blah, 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 blah. For the following reasons, Miss Lively requests that the court compel Wayfarer to produce all responsive documents immediately, including all witness recordings. And actually, I have no problem with this. Why not? I think they should. Go for it. I'm all for transparency. I like to be objective and keep it real. What do you think about everything from today and these latest developments? Let's discuss in the comments section.